Live from Sin City, it's the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. And now, here's the star of the show, Giant Dr. Griffin!
This is Diet Dr. Griffin back with another episode of the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. This is going to be an interesting show because pre-show, my cat Sylvester, who I love very much, has just decided to step on my computer, and everything is all messed up tonight. Trying to get my windows and everything set up the way that I had all my prep work for the show, and it is just a bit of a mess here.
And all we have to say is, Sylvester, we love you. So
I love my kitty, but he's being a little bleep right now. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here with this. Anywho, you know who else is being a little bit of a bleep right now? You want to take a guess?
no, I want you to tell me.
Hal Steinbrenner. Good old Hal Steinbrenner, who's making comments about the Dodgers spending spree, saying it's difficult for most of us owners to do what they're doing.
Even though that the Dodgers have an owner and they are doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify that. So
It's difficult for most of us owners to be able to do the kinds of things they're doing. Now we'll see if it pays off. They still have to have a season relatively injury-free for it to work out for them. And it's a long season, as you know. And once you get to the postseason, anything can happen. We've seen that time and time again. We'll see who's there at the end.
Well, honestly, with the pitching staff that they have already, I would be surprised if Shohei Ohtani even has to pitch this year. I mean, I know he wants to, and I know he's probably going to, but in what role he does is going to be interesting because I know he wants to be a starting pitcher, but they are crowded at that position right now.
Yeah, but you know that guys, they also have the most brittle rotation out there. They have a bunch of guys who've never pitched over like 125, 130 innings a year.
Oh, for sure. But I feel like
when
this year they went out and like figured that out a bit. But
I mean, they did some stuff, but at the same time, it's like last year when they got to the World Series, like Jack Flaherty and Yamamoto were like their only healthy pitchers, and then you had like Walker, Texas Bueller, doing his thing and bullpen games.
I mean, but they won all the bullpen games.
Oh,
except
I know
one,
they did.
so.
They did. I give them credit for that. But I mean, like their rotation was in shambles by the time they got to October, and they had to use one of the guys they traded to be able to trade it for to get there. Like
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like this year they're not going to have to do that based on who they've acquired and what they've acquired them for.
we'll get to that. But this part's about Hal here. Okay.
Okay.
Too many of these teams are just running their organizations like they're actual businesses. And there's nothing really wrong with that in the academic sense.
And John Stanton, we would like you to do that with the Mariners. But that's okay.
But the problem is that the fan bases expect all of the owners to go into their own pockets to, buy and do these deals and get these players to come in. And
again, John Stanton, as the most profitable team in MLB, we're not expecting you to do that, just a little bit. So
yeah, and I think a big reason why the Dodgers can do a lot of this stuff and you don't get to see the actual books for most of these teams outside of the Blue Jays and the Braves that are kind of have publicly owned elements of it. I get a feeling that like the reason the Dodgers can do all the stuff they're doing is one, they just don't really care, but two, because they actually have a good TV deal. Like their deal with Comcast is not going anywhere.
Oh,
Everybody
and
else has got like RSN deals that are worth nothing. Even the Yankees deal probably isn't
yeah,
worth as
and the
much.
reason why their Comcast deal, or the reason why they even have a Comcast deal, is because of Shohei Ohtani.
No, they've had this deal with Comcast well before.
Well,
The
the reason why they're making a lot of money on it now is because of Shohei Ohtani. So,
I mean they're exploiting a window right now with that contract for sure. But the Dodgers have had their Comcast contract for some time now.
oh, okay.
I'm quickly Googling it, but basically
Yeah,
they
I'd be curious to know how long they've had it and how long it's been profitable, and what Shohei Ohtani has done to those numbers, which I'm sure he's astronomically increased them miles
he's
beyond.
not gonna change their RSN deal. Like that deal is already in place.
For sure, but oh, okay, yeah. So I get what you're saying. And his jersey deals and everything else is just
Like
goes.
okay, so the deal that the Dodgers had was from 2013, and the original deal was worth $8.35 billion dollars and it's supposed to run through 2039.
And they haven't renegotiated that. They just stick
No,
with that contract.
no, I mean that deal's gonna that deal's running for another 14 years. You don't get to renegotiate a deal like that. Just
Yeah.
ask Bryce Harper. It's like, hey, we signed a 13-year deal with you guys. We have like 8 years left to go, but I want to tear it up and get more money. Why would anybody do that?
Yeah, classic. Yeah,
Let's
you're totally right.
tear up
Yeah.
the contract with 8 years to go and we'll pay you more money. The same thing like with Comcast and it was originally with Time Warner, but that kind of got absorbed by getting bought out. And
Yeah.
it's
Not being
gonna
successful.
run
Yeah.
for another 14 years. Yeah, we're not getting out of that deal.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing as it kind of relates to this, you also have the new Orioles owner, David Rubenstein. He's talking about how he wishes there was a salary cap in baseball like there is in other sports.
Yeah, because he's not able to spend the money that the Mets or the Yankees or the Dodgers, quite frankly, are spending. So,
I mean, he just bought the team. You would think if there's any time to do that, it would be within the first 5 years. That's what there's like tax implications where you can have the benefit and take larger losses in the first few years.
yeah, but they kind of sold out everything that they needed and haven't gained anything to win them a championship.
They haven't sold out anything yet, really. I mean, they haven't traded any of their top prospects that they have, and
How
they've
about
been just
didn't
nickel and dime.
Santander go somewhere? Or
Sorry?
didn't Santander go somewhere?
Santander was like a 30-year-old free agent. I mean, they have,
For sure, but like clubhouse guy, I mean, those guys are important. And normally I say those guys are worthless. And I have said those guys are worthless in the Mariners organization. But with a team that can actually win a championship, like you want a couple of those guys in the clubhouse.
Yeah, but you got to understand that they have a ton of top prospects though.
They have a ton
You
of
still have
top young
Jackson,
prospects.
you still have
And
Jackson Holiday.
Santander is such a great influence for all those guys. Just like Carlos Santana and I forget the guy that they traded, who was really good for Julio Rodriguez on the Mariners. But like those guys are like really good guys to like help solidify young talent in the clubhouse.
Well, I mean, you got Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman now. They're established, they're the guys. You can get veterans to do that for cheaper on the
Yeah,
team. You still have
yeah.
Cedric Mullins there, you still they have, Jackson Holiday, Colton Cowser, Colby Mayo, and Heston Kjerstad that really haven't, I mean, outside of Cowser, those other three guys haven't established themselves out there. You
Oh
telling
yeah,
me they really need pitching more than anything, I think.
yeah, absolutely.
And you couldn't
And
tell me that they couldn't trade one of those guys to try to get a pitcher. I mean, they
That,
traded a lesser prospect to get Burns last year, and that didn't work out for them.
and then they
He
just
hit
let
in
Burns
October.
go. They just let Burns go. And so that's what I'm saying right now. Is like, so they had the blueprint to be successful, and then they just didn't, granted it's new ownership, but then they just did nothing with the fact of all of this talent that they have on the offensive side of the ball to go out and get defensive talent, and they just haven't done anything
I mean, they
with
did
it.
get Tyler O'Neill earlier in the offseason.
Yeah. And so they have done like some things, but not enough. And coming from a team where like you don't want to spend the money, you have all of this extra talent in order to acquire defensive talent, and you don't do anything with it. As a Mariners fan, I'm like, okay, well, like you actually had the trade to do the trades and decided not to. And like we don't have anything and we're still doing something and it means nothing. And like, so in that sense, I think the Orioles are missing out on an opportunity that could just be absolutely wonderful for them if they just took advantage of the situation that they have, which is extreme offensive young talent and no defense and acquiring pitchers in the one or two position and then just letting the rest of the guys kind of fill it in would be like such a great thing
Yeah,
for them.
and the only other thing they've done is they've decided to move back in the fences a little bit.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, so increase the offense, but defense wins you championships. And if memory serves me correctly, you couldn't even score the last time you made the playoffs.
Yeah, it's just interesting that we've kind of gone off on the part of the topic I wanted to kind of shift to was that you've got an owner outwardly saying we want a salary cap, and I think we're looking at a really high potential of the 2027 baseball season not starting on time.
Yeah,
I'm calling it right now because I think the next CBA is going to be worse than this one. I mean, this
yeah.
last one, I think we ended up only missing what, like a week or so of games. I think we started a week late and they kind of like crammed in a lot of extra games to try to get them all in. But I think it's going to be worse this time. I really do.
I think you're right, honestly. So,
Yeah, and just surprised that this far out that you've got an owner saying the salary cap.
yeah.
And and we all know that, well, maybe not all of us know that, but the crux of the 1994 baseball strike was the owners putting in a salary cap.
Hmm.
And then you've got, Tony the Tiger Clark, the MLB Players Association guy, basically being well on record of saying, we're never going to agree to a cap, end quote.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't know how you feel about this, Griffin, and I would love to hear how you feel about it after this 2 seconds of how I feel about it. But I would love there to be a cap and to make it competitive like it is in the NFL, and for there to be different teams at the top, you know, every single year, which is how the NFL works, except for when the refs just want the Chiefs to win. But in a perfect system, the cap really helps, every single team in the league be at the top of their game if that's where they want to be. So
Are you talking like a hard cap, or you're talking like an NBA style, cap, but also have a luxury tax line on top of it?
I'm talking about like the NFL hard cap.
See, it's really difficult, I think, to have a hard cap in baseball because you
Oh, I,
have
I
guaranteed
absolutely,
contracts.
I agree with you 100%. But I'm just saying, if that could ever exist, I would love that.
It's really difficult to have something like that exist when you're paying Juan Soto, what, $60 million a year. What was his exact number?
I think
765
the
divided by
technical
15.
term is a bajillion dollars. So
Okay, so you're paying Juan Soto $51 million a year. And for the next 15 years. It's kind of hard to throw a cap in there when you've got all of these like really, really long extended contracts. One of the reasons that the NBA salary cap kind of works as well as it does is because they have basically structured contracts. So contracts can only be of a certain length and a certain amount, regardless of the talent of the player. You can't have these crazy outlier contracts that are like a decade long. You can only have like 5 or 6 year deals tops. And in the NFL, one of the big reasons you can have a hard cap like that is because so many of the contracts aren't guaranteed. You can just cut players willy-nilly, and none of the contracts actually mean anything.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's the big thing with a really hard cap that you can't do in baseball. You would have to
Yeah,
have some kind of a give or
honestly,
take.
you shouldn't do in baseball too, because
Yeah, I just wish more owners actually felt like they wanted to put a competitive team out there. I just don't get the feeling that most owners do that, and it's not even as like an indicative thing as wealth. Back in the day, do you remember back in the early 2000s when they were talking about contraction?
yeah, I do actually.
So one of the teams that was being contracted or being talked about being contracted, because obviously none of the teams ever were, was the Minnesota Twins. At that time, the owner of the Twins, the Pohlads, who are now actually talking about selling the team,
Yeah.
Pohlads were the richest owners in baseball,
Hmm.
and they were the team that was talking about getting contracted.
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be like a willingness for ownership on these teams to want to put a competitive team out there. And
Well, they should all want to put a competitive team out there no matter what. And that I think is the problem with baseball is sometimes they just want to make the money for the area that they exist in, and they don't actually want to compete for the World Series. And they're like, oh, if we are as successful as we are in our region for the sport that we are, then that's good enough. And I think that might be a problem with baseball in its difference with why the NFL is so widely popular.
well, I think one of the big reasons the NFL is so widely popular is because they've got great TV deals and they're on local broadcasting TV for the most part.
Yeah.
I think that's a big reason why they're such a success. And
Oh, and you're
yeah,
guaranteed to make money if you own an NFL team, and you're not guaranteed to make money if you own a baseball team.
yeah. And they have revenue sharing too, so all of the teams like basically just put it in the pot and then they get a percentage of it. And part of the salary cap is, it's an agreement between the owners and the players based on like the profit percentage. So I don't off the top of my head know the exact number, but just for example, let's just say that like the salary cap is based upon 45% of the revenue from the previous season. It's something like that. It's a calculated number that changes based on like how well the league is doing in terms of the money. And like the owners get like 55%, and I think the players get 45. So it's something in that range. I'm not up on the NFL talks, but that's like how it works in the cap driven sports. So you would have to
Gotcha.
find a way in order to put a cap in for the players union and the owners to agree to a revenue sharing split like that, which I just get the feeling that the players will never agree to something like that.
Yeah, of course the players like why would you as a player agree to that? So
Yeah. So let's jump into some free agency stuff. That took a little bit of a longer detour than I was
yeah,
expecting.
my bad.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We got Austin Hayes. He signed a $5 million 1 year deal with the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, hopefully he figures it out there. So
Well, the thing about the Cincinnati is that ballpark is really good for hitting home runs.
Yeah,
So you can probably get a good boosting there.
yeah.
Uh,
Let's hope so. Honestly.
yeah. Elias Diaz is back with the Padres, who
Okay.
seem to be in the talks about trading a lot of their players. They're
Yeah, I mean,
they're a team I think that did kind of push the envelope hard, and now they're kind of having to regroup and cut the money down because the owner who was doing that passed away and all that jazz. You got new owners in there who don't want to play like the previous ones do.
yeah, it's too bad too because they were the only ones really competing with Dodgers. So
You know, now the Diamondbacks seem to be a legit contender, though. I think they've got a good shot, at least of making the playoffs next year and in that division.
yeah, yeah, 100%. So
But now the Dodgers went out and got Kirby Yates. I don't know what the Dodgers are going to do in their closing situation because they just have so many dependable relievers and you
I
know
think they might be the first team to do like that. It's just every game is a bullpen game, and
I don't think they have to
we
do a bullpen
already
game.
explored the possibility of winning by doing that, and they
You don't
did.
do a bullpen. You don't do bullpen till the playoffs, though, realistically.
But they did, and they won.
Well,
So
yeah, but you don't do that over 162 games. You're gonna wear out the bullpen before then.
yeah, I guess yeah. If you do the bullpen the whole entire
You can,
time,
you can do that at the end, but they got enough healthy arms. They should be able to be fine.
yeah. I mean, they have enough healthy arms to do a 7-man rotation, and that's not even if Otani wants to be a part of it. So
Now this is something that I find fascinating because usually what ends up happening is when guys are coming back from Tommy John surgery, and from what we can tell, Otani's not going to be ready to start the season. At least not ready to start the season in Japan in the middle of March.
mm,
But usually these guys will be doing simulated games as they're getting ready. They're doing rehab starts in the minors and everything.
yeah.
How exactly is Otani going to be able to do rehab starts and stuff in the minors, or just rehab starts in general, while he's having to be the team's everyday DH?
Yeah.
I wonder how that part of it's going to work. If he has any kind of like a setback in his pitching, like how does he get the volume of the reps that he needs so he can actually go out there and start? I don't remember how he
I
did this.
think maybe that's like Rocky Saki or I
Roki
forget,
Sasaki.
but yes, yeah, maybe that's what his role is to just fill whatever he can't do. So
I mean, they got guys that can do that. They still have like Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin, and eventually Kershaw will be there too. He's going to sign with them at some point.
I mean,
Yeah, they're just
Kershaw, I love you. Just be a coach, and
yeah,
like I don't know,
and and
I don't know
and
what
they
you're doing.
they're
So
still going to try to salvage Bobby Miller too eventually.
they they are.
They have to. I mean, he was like a pretty good rookie, and then he just had a bad year last year. But they're not going to throw in the towel on a guy who's only got to pay the league minimum when he's up there.
Oh yeah, I guess. And yeah, no, you're totally right. So
Yeah, I mean he'll be around. I'm sure he'll get some spot starts in there, or maybe
yeah. Bobby.
So going back to the Padres a bit, Ha-Sung Kim, he signed a 2-year deal with the Rays of all teams.
No crap. The Rays. Huh?
Yeah. Now it is a pillow contract, so there is an opt out after year one.
Okay. They don't even have a stadium. I'm just like confused why he's going there. Maybe for the money. I mean, I guess, the money is a good thing.
Well,
So
there's a stat where I was listening to another podcast. They were talking about how the Rays have like never had more than 3 players on a team making $10 million or more in a year.
so they just want
Think
to
about that for a second
keep
here.
it that yeah, keep it that way or
I get the feeling, and Kim's not going to be ready to play until at least May because he's had
yeah,
some shoulder issues.
yeah, yeah.
I get the feeling like they're going to flip him.
Oh, of course
If
they're
he,
going to
if
flip
he,
him. I mean,
if
they flip everyone who's worth anything. So
I mean, they may flip him, or and I say I say they flip him if he decides to take the option. I don't get the feeling they might flip him in the first year, but if he accepts the option, they may just flip him.
yeah,
Because I remember they signed Zach Eflin to like the largest free agent deal in history, and I think that was like 3 years, 30 something million dollars. It wasn't a whole lot of
yeah,
money,
yeah,
and they sent him to Baltimore in like the second year of that deal.
yeah, exactly. That's what I loved about. That's the reason why I loved Caballero going there, because I was just like, if you're gonna succeed on any team, going from the Mariners to a place where, like you can just play baseball and can be like the good player on a team and be the shortstop, be the everyday shortstop. Like Jose Caballero, like, well done, man. I'm happy that you're there. So,
Wasn't what? Okay, now we got some more moves here. Wasn't Ryan Stanek a Mariner at one point, or my brain?
yes, he was. Yeah, yeah. For a very brief
He signed
point in
with the
time.
Mets.
Yeah.
Oh, Shane, I gotta curse you out.
Yeah, sorry.
This is why we're recording in the evening. Just giving me more work to do.
In the morning, I'm better at it. So,
Yeah, yeah. You had fun today, and
yeah, I skied my heart out. Now I'm just, I'm free. So,
all right. So Tommy Canhills, am I sure I'm pronouncing that right? He was with the Yankees. He signed with the Tigers, bullpen arm.
okay.
Charlie Sheen, aka Carlos Estevez, he signed a 2-year, $22 million deal with the Royals.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
so I get the feeling he's gonna probably be the closer over Lucas Ursig.
Oh, that's too bad because Ursek is my boy. I love Ursek.
Yeah, I like him too.
Um,
But if you're paying a guy that much money as the Royals are, I think he's gonna be the closer and
yeah.
at least start
Ur-
off as the closer.
Yeah, Ursek's probably going to be the set. Ursek did struggle a little bit, so I can kind of see why, you
Is
would
he a
make the move
lefty or a
as that.
righty?
Ursek?
Yeah,
Yeah, righty.
okay. Because
Yeah,
usually they don't like to have lefties as closers, so I was curious about that.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
Yeah, everyone hates lefties until they're great. So,
here's a name that we all well, they don't like lefty closers. Here's a name that we all know. Max Scherzer. He signed with the Blue Jays.
hmm.
1 year, 15.5 million.
Oh, we'll see how much he plays this year. Probably 30 games. So,
30 games? That would be a great year if he played 30 games.
yeah, I know,
As a
right?
starting pitcher, yeah, I'll take 30 starts out of him. He's not gonna go to the bullpen. 30 games would be great.
Yeah.
I think he only played in like 10 last year.
Yeah, probably playing 5 this year. So
Well, we eventually
I
have
get
to
that
get.
he's like a really this is the thing. It's like I get that Max Scherzer is a really good pitcher and was a really good pitcher. And I get why people want him because if he ever has just half the year of one of his great years, it would be like almost a Cy Young year. But I just don't think that's happening anymore for him.
Well, when Scherzer actually pitched last year, he wasn't that bad. I know.
Exactly. He was serviceable.
I mean, he
So,
had a 3.95 ERA last year, 40 strikeouts over 43 innings, and a 1.15 WHIP.
yeah.
I mean, that's
Which is
not.
not that bad.
It's,
So,
it's fine. It's for a 1 year deal of 15 million. He's going to be 40. He's already 40. Excuse me. It's okay.
yeah.
They don't expect probably much out of him, and he'll probably just start a few games here and there until he gets an owie of some kind.
Yeah. Which will be soon, knowing him. So,
Yeah, yeah. You just kind of hope he can. It's sort of like the end of the road for some of these guys, like him and Verlander. Just signing these 1 year deals just to keep in the game.
Yeah, I mean, and Scherzer is the what is he? He's the sinker fastball guy, the original sinker fastball guy. And Verlander is that original like 12-6 curve, high fastball, mixes those two things in, occasional slider. And he still, I mean, he still throws it at 94 miles an hour. I mean, it's like beautiful to watch. It's just there's so much film out on him now. They know what his tell is when he's going to throw it and when he's not going to throw it. And I'm sure Scherzer
He's
has
not
the
as good
same
as
thing,
he.
but
They're just
Scherzer is injured.
they're just older and not as talented as they used to be able to overcome that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Ah, man. Watching Verlander throw that 12-6 curve with a high fastball, the high four seam afterward, though, is a thing of chef's kiss beauty. But people tee him up now, so because he can't throw it as well as he used to. But it
Yeah.
is fun to watch. So
And on a final note, because we have to talk about it, Jorge Polanco signed a 1-year deal to stay with the
let's go, Ore! Have a better
conditional
year than you did last year. So
the conditional player option for 2026.
yeah. I feel like that's the best we were ever going to do with anything. And honestly, I'm super happy we didn't give away any of the farm. We just brought back someone who had a down year last year and kind of turned it around at the end of the year. And maybe we'll just have a really good year this year. Or hey, looking at you. Hopefully that's what happens. And, like you can't do any worse than anyone else. So just be yourself is all I have to say to you. So
And we're gonna be ourselves next week on the show. Not sure when it's gonna drop because we're still working out the recording schedule. I'm going to be in Seattle next week for the Super Bowl, so we're gonna be all in the same area. We're gonna be recording live, likely together. So we just don't know when that's gonna be yet. Normal recording day is Sunday and Super Bowl, and that's going to be a crazy day for all of us. So, uh, we'll figure it out. So if the show drops a little late or maybe a little early, we'll find out. Do you have any closing remarks for the day besides lamenting about Polanco?
I'm not relenting about Polanco. About Polanco. However, all I have to say is the first class of the Hall of Fame was Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Walter Johnson, Christy Mathewson, and Honus Wagner. And
And
these
none of
five
those
players,
players were voted in unanimously.
exactly, and they were elected in 1936, but not formally inducted until 1939. And who was the first player voted in unanimously?
Well, Mariano Rivera is the only player who's been voted in unanimously, so he has to be the first one.
And when did that happen?
It was like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember the exact year.
Take a guess.
2022?
Ah, man. Griffin, you are good. 2019.
Oh. I mean, I knew it was recently. I just didn't remember how recently it was.
Yeah. And that was honestly closer than I would have gotten. So
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to close out this show. See you guys next week.
bye now.